Hello, everyone. This is Severen Henderson back again with another episode of Department 3C Presents, a podcast. Today, I have a guest. I can finally say it's not somebody that's just my friend, but it is someone that's on the same podcasting platform and team that I'm on. So it's kind of a crosstalk show. So this time, you can't always say you're just getting your buddies, and that's the only people you're getting. But like I said, after this, we probably will be buddies because I'm a friendly guy.
Absolutely.
I like having buddies. So we have Thomas Kral today. Thomas Kral hosts the Alpha Koncepts podcast, like I said, on Fire and Iron Media. We're going to talk about gun stuff, everything that has to do with guns, everything that speaks to guns, everything that goes with guns. He knows about it. I just told him I listened to every episode of his podcast, and he is very knowledgeable, and his guests that he have on are very knowledgeable as well. So without any further hesitation, we'll get into speaking with Thomas Kral. Thomas, how are you?
I'm doing great. That was an awesome intro. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Well, like I told you when I came through the door, it's nice to meet you in person. Just for your sake, I just go through just general questions, no real curveballs, nothing nasty or anything like that. So let's start off. Who are you exactly, Thomas?
I am a firearm instructor in the Chicagoland area. I've been teaching students to safely and legally carry concealed firearms since 2013. I am one of the first concealed carry instructors in the state of Illinois, and that is, my passion that I absolutely enjoy and I love doing, and that's to oversimplify my life, right? I'm a father, a husband. The most important thing in my life is my family, and the second most important thing in my life is my right to keep and bear arms. And coincidentally, the reason that is so high on my list of priorities is because of my family. It's my duty to protect them, and I take that very seriously.
Okay, I'm with that. That's a great introduction to yourself. Now, you said you were one of the first firearm instructors in Illinois. I'm from Ohio originally, and I remember when we first got concealed carry, everybody was up in arms. People going to be dead in the street. It's going to be like the Wild Wild West.
But that didn't happen, did it?
That did not happen. That's what I was going to say. Crime actually went down. They said when good people have guns, crime tends to go down, and it did go down. What's the issue here in Illinois that you think that made it, like I said, that was in 2009, I think, for me. Personally, what do you think took so long to, would you say, 2013?
Correct. Well, there was. So let's start off and say that the legislators who run this state do not want us to have guns. That's very obvious, based upon the bills that they're always kind of introducing every legislative session. And it was only through a court order that we were allowed to have firearms in the state of Illinois, and I can go into the case. But the bottom line was there was a case of a woman who was licensed to carry in other states that lived here. Her and a coworker were beaten almost to death. A court case went through the courts, took several years, and ultimately the federal appellate court ruled that they cannot ban us from carrying firearms outside the house. Then, of course, a concealed carry law was passed, and we were able to start carrying guns in 2014. So it is not something that the legislators gave to us as a gift, crumbs for the peasants. It was something that they were forced to do.
Okay, so it wasn't just, here you go, we had to do some work as a state, or the state had to do some work to actually get this going.
The State Rifle Association, the National Rifle Association, the Second Amendment Foundation, they were the ones that worked on this case to get us our rights back.
Okay, so like you said it when I was talking about how crime actually went down. I remember I another conversation I had with a buddy's father. He said, man, you up there in Chicago and they got all kind of stuff going on with gun and violence and everything else. What do you think needs to happen? I said, I think it need to be more guns. He said, more guns? that doesn't make no sense. I said, well, in Ohio, from personal experience seeing it, stuff went down. So speak to me about that, because
There is an awesome book that anytime someone says, well, what do you mean more guns? The answer is not more guns. Well, actually, statistically, it is. More guns equal less crime by John Lott. Dr. John Lott, I forget, but John Lott is the author. More guns equal less crime. And he breaks down the national statistics about how when gun laws are reduced, crime goes down. You can argue all day about theory back and forth, but when you have real life data to back up your claims, then that's something that is important. The problem here is, right, in the city of Chicago, most of the crime is not committed by people who have gone out and purchased their firearms legally. In the state of Illinois, you got to have the firearm owner identification card. That is a background check in itself. Then you have another background check when you buy your firearm. These people that are committing crimes are getting their guns illegally. No amount of law is going to stop someone because by definition, criminals don't obey the law. And when you empower someone to be able to defend themselves and to fight back, yes, crime goes down because criminals, listen, you can say what you want, but they don't want to die. Most of them anyway, right?
Right.
So they're going to go after easy targets. They're, if they're confronted with someone that, is able to fight back, they may start second guessing their career choices.
A different decision. Because it's like if you can prey on someone that you know doesn't have anything, it makes it that much easier just to show the gun. Not even if I'm going to shoot you. I'm just going to say, hey, look, got this gun, you better do what I say. If they got something back, then I'm a little less hesitant to run up on somebody and do that. I'm sorry, I just got some paper and I love homework. So could you give me that book and author one more time, please?
More Guns Equal Less Crime by John Lott.
More guns equal less crime. Okay. So we talked about, the concealed carry issue and everything. And like I said, I listened to all your podcasts, and a lot of conversation is surrounding the NRA and how the NRA has a lot of negative issues going on around it. I know you had one person that was on there, they were running for a board seat and giving explanations why. He was talking about Karl Malone was on there. Another country singer was on there, and just to kind of show. So can you give me a brief for my audience that haven't heard your show yet? What's going on with the NRA right now?
So just to be fair, to let you guys know that I am working on having an NRA representative appear on my podcast as well. I think that is the fair and the right thing to do. And, I'm not an NRA hater. I absolutely love, I like to say that the NRA is myself and 5 million of my closest friends, because the NRA is the membership. The problem with the NRA is in some of the leadership. You've got some spending issues. You've got some laws that may have been violated. You've got listen, you know what? All of that, as far as the spending issues, may be forgivable. Right, if you didn't have issues like on bump stocks, which is just a silly piece of plastic, and the NRA kind of got wishy-washy, and let's instead of taking a hardline stance and say, we are against every single gun law, which is, I am. I believe every single gun law is a crime against humanity. When you really understand the purpose of the Second Amendment, I think any logical person would agree as well. So to have any compromise whatsoever when it comes to gun law, you're compromising on your right. You're compromising on your ability to defend yourself, your family, not only against an attacker, but against tyranny. And we need an organization that's going to say, absolutely 0 inches. No, this is the line in the sand. You shall not pass. And no, we're not going to give an inch on bump stocks. Well, we have to give bump stocks, because if we don't give bump stocks, they're going to come after semi-automatic rifles. So herein comes the compromise, and that turned a lot of people off. And they're taking taking a similar stance with red flag laws, and that's turning a lot of people off as well. So, you've got some spending issues. You've got some possible laws that may have been broken when it comes to nonprofit. You've got these compromises that the membership is just starting to get frustrated with. And, like all things, everything that is good, and the leadership has done great things for gun owners in the United States. Don't get me wrong. It's not all bad. But, sometimes it's time to let go and let the next generation take over. And my personal belief is we're at that time.
Okay, well, I totally understand what you're saying about the NRA, and sometimes it goes bad, sometimes it goes good. We have, in our fire association, we have some leadership issues at the top, and I appreciate you saying you're not just being an NRA hater, you actually want to bring on other people to give their standpoint so people can make informed decisions, not just listen to one side of a story and get the whole thing. So
Exactly.
I really appreciate that. Now, you mentioned red flag. Can you explain to me what red flag operations are?
So to summarize it, obviously, it's a multiple-page law, right? And it includes a lot of things. But what the red flag law, specifically, each state has their own law. There's not a federal law. Not every state has a red flag law, but Illinois does have a red flag law, which allows certain people, I believe it's immediate family members and the police, to say that you are a danger and you should have your firearms removed. And there is in Illinois, there is a small amount of due process that comes with it. You have to prove your innocence, which is completely contrary to our entire justice system, which is based upon the premise of innocent until proven guilty.
Yep.
But not every state even has that level of law. And let me even take it a step further. Illinois had red flag laws before red flag was even a thing. Through orders of protection, through things like that, there are mechanisms that it's not uncommon. And I spoke to someone, unfortunately, just a few days ago who's going through a bad divorce, and his ex-wife's lawyer filed an order of protection against him, and that triggers the revocation of your gun rights, which you can eventually get back years later, and it takes process and takes money, and so this has been on the books for quite a long time. So just in the broadest sense, red flag laws allow your guns to be taken away for a very broad number of reasons, and you have to prove your innocence. You have to prove your worthiness.
So you're backwards on it. You're guilty until proven innocent instead of innocent until proven guilty.
When you examine any gun law, you're always guilty until proven innocent. And I challenge anyone to prove me wrong on that. You can be just simply have a warrant out for your arrest, and your gun rights are going to be revoked. And a warrant is they want to arrest you. You have not yet been convicted.
Charged, right.
And people will say, hey, well, you want criminals to have guns. No, absolutely not. I don't want dangerous people to have guns. But, we have rights for a reason, and we cannot throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. We can't give up our rights for maybes and what ifs, and we can't, turn our back on the premise of our justice system, whereas you're innocent until the burden of proof is on the state to prove that you're guilty. And then at that point in time, when you've been proven beyond a reasonable doubt, then prisoners go to jail, and they should get some reform.
I mean, that is what it originally, people, bump the Constitution and say, want to go by the letter of the law. That's fine, that's cool, but like you just said, it's innocent until, it says innocent until proven guilty, not the other way around, but with guns, it's different. So you talked about the bump stock and the red flag also under what's going on with the NRA now, and they're giving stuff back. As far as giving stuff back with the presidential, because we're in America, shouldn't this be going more freedom with guns, or no?
I guess, can you rephrase your question?
So when Obama was around, all my buddies that I work with was saying, Obama gonna take our guns. and that like didn't happen.
Right.
And now that we have Trump, you saying stuff went a different way.
Yes.
So is Trump taking our guns, or like with the bump stock and the red flag?
So Donald Trump issued a directive to the Department of Justice to examine bump stocks to see if they fall within the definition of machine gun under the letter of the law. The Department of Justice, Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm decided that, yes, bump stocks are machine guns and therefore should be regulated like machine guns are regulated. Did Donald Trump directly take away our bump stocks? No. However, he was the one who issued the directive. Now, playing devil's advocate, because a lot of my friends, you can point out the facts, and those are the facts. But a lot of my friends are quick to point out the whole 4D chess scenario, which is, well, he did that on purpose so that they can eventually in court be ruled as not a machine gun, and therefore, it's on the books. We have a court order, etc. And in the long run, it's a short-term sacrifice for a long-term gain. And all I can say to that is, I hope you're right. I hope you're right.
Okay. Well, that's a great answer, because that's what I was trying to figure out. Like I said, I listened to your show and they said they had Eric Trump on the cover of the NRA and he's against us. And I said, well, I don't understand how he's against the
Well, you
NRA.
also have to understand something. A father is not his son, and a son is not his father.
Absolutely. Correct.
And so, to have one person on the cover doesn't equate that the other person has one belief one way or the other.
Yep, that makes total sense. I'm with that. Okay, so you brought up the FOID card, and we have that in Illinois. Are we the only place to have a FOID card, or how does that go?
So the Illinois Firearm Owner Identification Card is unique to Illinois in the fact that it is a state law, not a federal law. There are a few other states, I think off the top of my head, 4 other states like New Jersey and possibly California that have a firearm owner identification law on the books. But most states, and for sure the vast majority, again, off the top of my head, I'd say 80-90% of states don't have this type of firearm owner identification law.
Mm-hmm. Is it like a money issue, you think, or is it just our state and how it is?
So, I don't like to spread rumors, but I will say that the rumor where the FOID came along was 1968, and at the time, Mayor Daley, not the Mayor Daley we may know, but his father, who controlled the city and indeed had tentacles in national politics as well. Mayor Daley Sr., the riots in Chicago were going on in 1968.
Right.
And so the rumor is, and I've spent time trying to find this. I may have to go through newspaper archives to find this, but the rumor is he basically didn't want the people who were rioting to have guns, and because he knew he couldn't ban guns or register guns, he came up with the gun owner registry to hinder and to slow down the process that would prevent people from getting their hands on firearms. Because back then, they were a little bit more expedient processing firearm owner identification cards, and that would be a month, whereas now it's taking, almost half a year, 4 months, 3 months, even, like I said, almost half a year in some cases to get a piece of plastic that is a permission slip to not even buy a gun, but to even touch a gun at a gun store.
Right. To even look at it, you have to have the FOID card.
Some gun stores won't even allow you in the store without showing your FOID card.
Yep, I've seen that. Like when I first moved here, I didn't have a FOID card, and they're like, "Yeah, you can't come in here."
Yeah,
and I'm like, "Well, it's another place I went, and they actually let you in to apply for the card."
Sure.
Which was
most will let you in. They'll even let you, if they have a range and you come with someone who has a FOID card, they'll let you shoot on the range. You can buy. Here's the thing about the FOID card. If you come from another state and you have a driver's license or an ID in another state, you can come here and you can actually buy ammunition, no problem, without a FOID card. So people from other states can be trusted, but Illinois residents, we can't be trusted. There's just something inherently untrustworthy about us.
Okay. So as far as the FOID card go, we had a little mini conversation before we started, and I was saying that part of the reason I began my podcast, blogging, vlogging, all of that was to talk about first responder suicides. I'm a first responder. I actually went to police academy. I was a paramedic. I'm a firefighter now, so I have all those under my belt. And I know about the struggles on all three sides. And here in Illinois, not for a fireman, I mean, if you lose your FOIA card, you just lose your FOIA card. But for our police officers, we just had a police officer commit suicide. And I don't want to say it, I don't even know why. I just want to open up and have the conversations to let people know they have other options. But if you lose your FOIA card as a police officer in the state of Illinois, you can't have a job. So how are we supposed to get people help if they say anything, they're going to lose their gig?
Yeah, I mean that's a big problem, and it applies not just to police officers, but to armed security, to firearm instructors, to anyone that relies on that firearm to earn a living. You know, it should not be that you have to choose between feeling depressed, feeling sad versus being able to put food on the table. Because I'll tell you what, 9 times out of 10, most people are going to choose their job because hey, I started out the intro talking about the reason why I'm into guns is because of my duty to protect my family, right? So now if I was going through some things in my life, and we all do, every single one of us does from time to time, we go through things. I'd be risking, if that was the case, hypothetically speaking, I would be risking having the ability to put food on my table and to pay my mortgage. I would be risking that ability to get the care that I would need, right? So that's not a good position for anybody to ever be in. And unfortunately, that's the position that, hundreds of thousands of people in Illinois alone are in, and then look at the rest of the country, and they have very similar type of laws, especially when it comes to red flags or it comes to any of these state owner identification cards. They're all going to be in that same position of, for whatever reason, they may be into guns for personal protection, for recreation, for for their job, their livelihood. When you start talking about taking that away, now you make someone second guess wanting to get help. Someone who, listen, if you say to yourself, I think I need help, you do, right? If you're second guessing that, now you're telling someone that, okay, but do you really, really need help? Is it really, really worth it?
Is it worth your livelihood to get help?
And that's not the answer. That's not a position that anyone should be placed in. And because of that, I think there's people that could be helped that aren't getting help. And
to me, speaking from my profession, at this point, it's past a job. I mean, I get paid, yes, great. But it's more of a lifestyle. As I live, is what I do. So the same thing with a lot of police officers. They're not just there like, oh, it's a job, let me clock in and clock out. This is their livelihood. This is what they do. Some of them actually like what they do. So to say, hey, I need some help and can't get that help, but then you have to find other ways because you're going to lose your card isn't cool to me. So my question to you is, how, if anything, is there any way we can change this or get some help on that?
So there is a service called Walk the Talk America, okay? And it's a nonprofit service. They have on their website kind of like a self-help quiz where you answer some questions and they'll tell you, kind of like, yeah, you might want to go seek some help. And so there's resources that are out there, right? And that would probably, in my estimation, going to that Walk the Talk website, I think it's Walk the Talk America, but going to that website would be the very first step. If you think you need help and you don't know where to go, you don't know what to do, I tell my students in my concealed carry class, I'll say, call me. Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes all you need is just a sounding board. But go to that website and, look at some of their resources, take their self-help quiz, and do what you got to do to get the help that you need. Because if your decision is, I'll lose my job, I won't be able to feed my family, let me ask you a question. Will you be able to feed your family if you're no longer here?
Right.
Obviously. Okay, well,
Well, I mean, go ahead.
yeah,
because
life insurance, okay, but man, that's
that's sticky and tricky, and
you might not always get it.
Right, you might not always get it. You might not. You can't plan it. You have no control if you're not here. So I agree with you. But just speaking from talking to people, I know that sometimes is a factor in their mind. They say, well, if I'm not here, I got this life insurance policy, and if something happened, my family would get like all this super money. So sometimes that is a.
But will your life insurance cover a suicide? Not all of them.
Not all of them do. You're very correct. So.
And if you're sitting here right now reading your policies, trying to go get some help.
Trying to figure out if that's the case, right? Go get some help. When we were talking before, you brought up the riots in '68, and that's how the FOID card. So maybe rumor-wise.
Rumor,
right.
It's not gospel.
Sure. Right, not for sure. That's just a rumor how it came up. That's fine. But my question about like the riots, and obviously there was the African American and black people doing the majority of the riots over there with some agitators added in, just like we have going on now. Excuse me. Different associations. I kind of, in doing my homework to speak to you, I found out about NAGA, the National African American Gun Owners Association, and some of them were saying, well, we wouldn't mind being with NRA, and some of them were like, absolutely not. What do you think about the other, especially that organization, gun rights popping up just to kind of spite, seems, the NRA?
So people have asked me why we should all get together. There just should be one big state group. There should just be one big national group. And I agree with the theory, right? There's strength in numbers, but you're never going to have one group. You've got a group called Hunters Against the NRA because they have the false impression that guns and gun rights is about hunting when it's not. It's about being able to defend yourself and your family against tyranny.
Who has that thought? The hunters have the thought?
No, not all hunters. There's a group called Hunters Against the NRA.
No, I was just confused about who has the Hunters Against NRA say it's just for guns are just for hunting, not for personal protection.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So you're never going to have, and I'm just using that as an example, you're never going to have just one big group because there's always going to be secondary differences, right? So what's the criticism that some of my black friends have about the NRA? Going back to the Black Panthers in California, they supported the ban. Allegedly, I haven't looked into this, but everything I have, okay, let me rephrase. I have looked into this, but I haven't looked into this with a lot of detail. And everything that I have seen has suggested that perhaps the NRA did back a ban on open carry to prevent the Black Panthers from marching on the Capitol building. So that's what I have read. Is it true? I think it might be, but I don't know for 100% sure. So people point to that, which happened, back in the 60s, right? I mean,
right.
Obviously they've changed leadership a couple times since then. More recent in modern times, they point to Philando Castillo, which I believe was in Minnesota, and he was shot by a police officer. He had a concealed carry license. He was carrying a concealed firearm. And if you watch the video, he's kind of reaching. The cop is kind of jumpy. In my armchair quarterback position, they were both kind of at fault. But the criticism is, well, the NRA didn't make a statement. Well,
right.
Yes, they did. Well, they didn't make it fast enough. They should have made a statement sooner. And, that's always the criticism after any mass shooting event. Well, the NRA needs to make a statement on this. So it's like... You're kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. So, you know what? Listen, bottom line is this. If you feel that the organization represents you, join the organization.
Okay.
If you feel that the organization doesn't represent you, then find a organization that you believe does and join that organization.
Then don't join. You're saying you don't have to just be in one lane.
Exactly. I'm a member of the National Rifle Association, despite the fact that I have some differences with some of the current leadership. I'm a member of National Gun Owners Association. I'm a member of the Illinois State Rifle Association. I'm trying to take my group, Gun Rights for Illinois, and turn it into a nonprofit as well. There's no reason you should only be in one or two.
Okay.
Why not be in, it's like baseball cards. Collect those membership cards.
Get them all.
Get them all.
I'm with that. So you made me, you brought up the CCW issue, and you're a CCW instructor. And I guess I'll give you a little brief history of my introduction to guns. The first gun I remember having was a hunting rifle. Not having, but going out. My uncle took me out hunting rifle. We had a 33 and a 22. We just went out to shoot at some deer. We didn't get anything. We just was out there hanging out, just showing me how a gun worked, just some safety. Because if you see this and pick it up and look straight into the barrel and pull it, you don't know what's happening, you can hurt yourself.
Sure.
So, he was just showing me how to get familiarize myself with guns.
That's very important.
And that was when I was a little kid. So, like I said, coming up, you kind of know, what to touch, what not to touch, things like that. So CCW-wise, I had a guy that I used to work with at my first fire department job. He was super into guns. He was like the gun king. He said there's only two things that gain value in life: watches and guns. And so I kind of still say that every now and then. And he actually sold me my first just regular gun that I had. And I asked him about a CCW way long time ago. He said, don't get it. I said, why? He said, well, and he was a white guy. He said, well, you're black, and, you can't change that, but it goes on your license. So when they pull you over, they already see you have a CCW. They're already assuming that you have a gun with you. That's already going to make the cop act a whole different way when he walks up to the car. You reminded me of Philandro Castile, and like you said, they both had faults. So what is the benefit of someone getting a CCW and not just being out here with guns?
Okay, well, the bottom line is a lot of people will say the Second Amendment is my concealed carry license, and I absolutely agree, but that defense is not going to hold up in court, and if it does, it's going to take hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And if you are out to prove a point, I will support your case. However, most of us, we don't have that luxury, that privilege, to sit in jail, to possibly lose our job to prove a point. And, we need more advocates that are willing to do that. Specifically to your example about, well, you're black, you shouldn't get a concealed carry license because the cop will know you have a gun. That's just horse manure.
Okay.
And let me explain my opinion on that. Mm-hmm. In Illinois, to get a concealed carry license, you have to go through 16 hours of training, 2 full days. You're going to, when you have completed your training and passed your shooting qualifier, you're going to then have to have a criminal background check. They're going to look for things like DUIs. They're going to look for misdemeanors that may have involved threats. That's going to disqualify you from getting a concealed carry license. They're going to do an in-depth mental health check, and that will disqualify you from getting a concealed carry license. What I like to say in my concealed carry classes, and I believe most cops will agree, that the two most stressful times of their day is on a domestic call, because they may end up fighting both the husband and the wife, or a traffic stop because they don't know what's going to happen. But the police understand, and the police know, at least the ones I've spoken with, and I've spoken with many, they understand the process we've had to go through to get this permission slip to carry a firearm. They also understand that criminals have access to guns and are carrying guns without having gone through this process. When they come up against someone who has a concealed carry license and they've pulled us over, they know that there's a very high likelihood that, in most cases, more often than not, this is going to be the easiest traffic stop of their entire day. It's not a badge. It's not, one person put it to me, it's your good guy club membership. When you have this card, you have proof that your background is squeaky clean, your mental health, your criminal, no DUIs, all of that stuff. And again, true statistics, people with concealed carry licenses statistically break even fewer laws than police officers do.
Okay, yeah, that makes total sense, because that was my argument against him. Like, well, if I got it, don't that mean I'm good? I said, well, can't change who you are. So it's just a interesting conversation.
But you know what? It's not a unique perspective that I have heard many people say before. Even my black friends have, well, you have different rights than me, and it's like. we have the same rights. I understand we're treated differently. I get that. I'm not, you can't control how other people treat you, but we do have the same rights, and we all should be exercising our rights to the fullest that we can.
That makes sense. Like you said, we're supposed to have the same rights, but how we're treated is dependent upon the individual.
Sure.
So I'm with that as well. So not trying to get like super political or in depth or anything. So let's talk about some fun gun stuff.
Sure.
I have a large group of friends. They're on a website. I don't even want to say the website's name because then I feel like if I put it out that more people will get on there and I won't get my chance to win anything. But they like win like the nicest stuff ever.
Is it like one of those, I'm doing air quotes, webinar
Yes.
groups? Yeah, okay.
Yes,
okay.
I'm sure you know what it is. But like I said, I don't want to amp it up and tell anybody else out there about it. But they, like I said, they win some nice stuff. I got buddies that win ARs and raffles.
Sure.
They win in all kind of handguns. The first handgun, like I said, I went to police academy. My department bought me a Glock 23. And it was cool, it was fine, but then once I started using other handguns, I saw like how really nice some were, like trigger pull and everything. I remember I had to do my qualifying, and with my gun, I couldn't do it. I used the qualifying officer. He had a Kimber 50 cal, and he let me use that, and I could hit everything in sight.
Well, the trigger on the Kimber is single action versus that long, heavy trigger on the Glock.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Let's talk about the fun stuff about guns.
Sure.
So give me some of your super gun guy. What do you like and what do you not like?
I am a very basic kind of person.
Okay.
You know what? The number one gun that I shoot the most is a 6-hour P320. It's what I carry both concealed carry as well as for work. Yeah, I mean, you know what? I train with it the most because chances are if I ever have to use a firearm, this is going to be the one that I end up using. But my favorite gun to actually shoot is my short barrel. Well, I shouldn't say that. No. ATF, you didn't hear anything. It is a pistol. It's an AR-15 pistol.
Okay.
It is not a short barrel. It's an AR-15 pistol. And that thing is just an absolute just blast to do any sort of running and gunning with. It is just, it puts a smile on my face. Now, I will say for anyone listening, if you ever get the opportunity to shoot a full auto rifle, you take that opportunity and you can thank me later for it.
I have had the chance to do that, and it is exciting. Yeah.
There's a reason they call it the giggle switch.
Yeah, guns are fun. So
when you have someone who understands responsibility and safety, putting that firearm in your hand for the first time, you will enjoy it. And when you have a foundation of that, listen, if I gave a kid a 12-gauge shotgun without hearing protection, I'm going to turn them off on firearms forever. If I give them hearing protection and I give them eye protection and I explain how the firearm works and I let them start with a 22 or even a BB gun, that's going to be a foundation on which to grow. And that works with adults as well. I call it the range effect. When you take someone who is a little bit curious or even a little bit scared to the range and you introduce them to the firearms in a safe manner, 9 times out of 10, you're turning that person into a future gun owner.
Right, and like I was saying, that the NAGA video I watched, it was on YouTube, and it was a Vice, and the woman said, I went into the store, I couldn't get no help, I got a gun in my hand, it was the best thing ever. And even on one of your episodes, somebody said the same thing, that wasn't what they were about. They wanted one for home protection. They started training with it, and now it's like an outstanding hobby. Now, you talked about training a little bit. I heard you talk about that on your podcast as well. And I can't remember who was saying it, but they were talking about conscious versus unconscious, like driving a car.
Sure.
And, you just get in your car, drive off. With guns, how do we get there other than time?
How did you get there with driving? Most of us, nearly everyone who has a driver's license had to go through a driver's education course. I'll tell you this, I believe every single gun owner should get firearm training, but I don't believe it should ever be mandatory. It should be voluntary. And having said that, when you sit down and you go through a training course with a competent instructor who understands what he's doing and understands how, you've got a lot of instructors out there who are awesome shooters, but don't quite understand how to put that information that they have in their brain and transfer it to the student's brain. Transfer of knowledge and articulation is just as important, if not more important, being a good instructor. And when you have a good instructor teaching you how to use the firearm, and then you get that trigger time, and it is going to take trigger time, that's how you get to that level of unconscious competency. And that's, like we said, driving the car, you don't need to think about what you're doing. It's all automatic.
Okay. And I remember in police academy, they were saying, whatever you get, practice with that. Like, don't get like a cowboy holster or get the what's it when you put it right here? You can
Shoulder holster.
Shoulder holster.
Miami Vice.
Yeah, and you pull it out and sling it out and everything. And then when we used to practice fight each other, we would try and take each other's guns and stuff like that. So even the training part was fun to me. As far as training, I had a question. It's like, do you think, like you got your good guy card to say you got your CCW, what about the training that you don't feel is mandatory, but if you volunteer and get more training, what if it like shows a different like badge or insignia?
Like on the card?
Yeah, on the card.
But what would that accomplish, though, I guess? What's the motivation behind that?
Let's just say this person knows what they're doing more.
Yeah, okay, sure. Like, that's why they give us certificates when we take most of these classes to show to your buddies. I mean, you know, to flash that around, there's such a thing as a concealed carry badge, which I'm absolutely 100% I'm against that. So if you start putting, you know, special stickers or different colors or things like that on concealed carry licenses, I think you turn it more into a novelty. I don't even think there should be a concealed carry license. It's my right to keep and bear arms. Bear arms means carry them. So, you know, to put that on there, I mean, I don't see the purpose. You'd have to convince me.
It's not my. I'm not trying. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Okay. Training wise, like I said, to keep it fun, I see these videos of Keanu Reeves being John Wick, and Halle Berry, I think, did it.
Sure, yeah.
And they like going through that outside gun shooting thing where they have like the handgun.
Terran Tactical. They're doing Terran Butler is a 3-gun competition shooter. 3-gun meaning rifle, pistol, shotgun. He is his school is the one who trained up Keanu Reeves. That's where those videos, I believe, I'm pretty sure, that's where those videos were taken. Yeah, I mean, John Wick, right? Everyone knows who he is and how he shoots, and it takes a lot of training to get to that point. Now, I believe most everyone can achieve that if they receive the same amount of quality training that Keanu Reeves received.
That's what I was asking, because that looks like fun. I mean, just out there. It's shooting, a
lot of fun.
You're shooting, you're moving, you're ducking, you're dodging. I can't even have that much fun on Call of Duty, and I play a lot of.
Well, I've got a defensive shooting class where it's strictly pistol because, you know, let's face it, as armed civilians, that's what we're going to have on us should we ever need to use a firearm, and we start to introduce a lot of that, you know, shooting on the move. You know, when we start to get into like my own defensive pistol 3 curriculum, we're shooting from laying positions, we're shooting from kneeling positions, we're shooting laying on our side, shooting from chairs, you know, things that you don't really get to do that are important to learn because you're not going to figure it out in a life and death situation, right?
We didn't do any of that in police academy.
You should come out to one of my class. All the officers listening, you should come out to a defensive pistol class. You know, again, defensive pistol 3 is when we start doing the real fun stuff.
Absolutely. That's what we gonna have a super plug session at the end where you say everything. But so we talked about the different guns and the different kind and what you like to shoot and competition and everything. So real quick, you said, well, that was a single action versus a heavy trigger. So why was I able to shoot everything with that Kimber?
So the difference between a single action and a double action and a striker fire pistol like a Glock technically is, even though it doesn't have a hammer, it is considered to be double action. And all single action versus double action means is on a double action, when you press the trigger, you are performing 2 functions. You are both cocking the hammer and dropping the hammer. So it's a longer, heavier trigger press when it's in double action mode. However, single action means that the trigger is only performing 1 function, and that is simply just to drop the hammer, which means it's a lighter, shorter trigger press. When you have a lighter, shorter trigger press, you're less likely to disrupt your sights and throw the gun off target. So it's much easier to shoot both accurately and fast when you have that single action trigger. So that's why, but it's not. You can totally train through a double action trigger. Especially on the striker fire, I believe off the top of my head, the civilian pull weight on a Glock is probably around 5-6 pounds. Whereas there's such a thing called the New York trigger, which is on the Glock, which is up there around 11 and 12 pounds.
Oh, so that's really heavy. Dude.
Yeah, real heavy, and it comes down to a lack of training. Officers were with their finger on the trigger, and they were shooting themselves and others negligently, not intentionally, and so the incorrect answer, instead of getting these officers proper training to keep their finger off the trigger until they're ready to shoot, they decided to put an 11, 12-pound trigger in a gun, which makes it horribly inaccurate.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's what I know. Like I said, I was throwing them. They weren't going left or right, but he was either going high or low.
So you may have been anticipating the recoil. And
yes, that's what I was doing. I knew what I was doing because they said it's supposed to just explode.
And we can work through that, absolutely. But it sounds that's exactly what you were doing, anticipating recoil.
Well, now I got all the light trigger action, so don't come for me. Well, I can hit stuff now.
You can still anticipate recoil. I had a shooter in my last class. She was doing great, but after, some strings of fire, she would start shooting low again, and I'd get next to her. I'd coach her through it. She'd be right back on target, and a little while later. It happens to everyone. It happens to any gun, single action, double. It can happen to anyone. It just takes training and trigger time and occasionally having someone tell you, hey, you're shooting low again, focus on those fundamentals. And that's where a good instructor will come in.
It was kind of like a golf swing at one point, because I remember when I would golf, I would slice the ball to the left or the right. I said, well, if I turn my whole body, then it's going to go the way I want it to go. That didn't work.
Well, I have heard people say, well, you're shooting low, just aim high. And
yes, that's what I was saying. That's what I was getting at. I was hitting the ground, so I said, well, if I just aim a little higher, like if I aim for above the head, it'll get to the body.
I mean, I guess if it works in a pinch, but obviously, you got to focus on those fundamentals, because in a life and death situation, your focus is going to be on the threat. You're not going to be thinking about, I need to aim high. You're going to then end up shooting lower than what you anticipate. And so you really got to focus on the fundamentals to make them muscle memory, so that you don't have to think about them in a split-second life and death situation.
Right. It's like, I can't remember the name of the movie, but there's a movie where they were throwing bullets. It had Angelina Jolie and Common and that guy that plays Professor X. I can't think of the name of it, but
I'm lost.
They were like throwing bullets, like they were shooting a gun, but as they shot,
they were like swinging the gun, and they were curving them around corners.
Yeah, like that.
That nonsense isn't real.
But yes, please tell.
Oh, you know what? You make an excellent point, though. Every single person has had firearm training, whether they know it or not. And it comes from the media, it comes from the TV, it comes from the movies, it comes from rap videos. And it's wrong more often than right. So you've got to get all that pollution out of your brain, because you don't have unlimited rounds in a gun. You do have to reload. That's why a lot of guys, gun guys like Keanu Reeves and his movie, because he's actually the closest to reality. You actually see him reloading. If you sit there and count, he's not getting 30 rounds out of a standard magazine on a handgun. So like I said, we've all had firearm training, whether we know it or not, and so we've got to get the pollution out of our head and cut through what's real and what's fake.
Our producer here found a movie for it. It was called Wanted.
Wanted.
That was I couldn't think of the name of it, but thank you very much. And you said we all have had training. You said rap videos. That just made me chuckle, because it's the sideways shooting. Like we shooting, holding the gun to the side. So
believe it or not, I know someone who had a firearm modified to put sights on the side of the gun.
Wow.
It's a novelty, obviously.
I guess you can do anything
if you have money.
And that site I was telling you about, you can win like accessories to the gun. You can win the sights, you can win the
Sure.
laser. Only thing you can't win is silencers because that's another thing.
Not legal in Illinois,
Right, that's another Illinois thing.
which is stupid because it's a safety device.
Now, right, it's a safety device. And one more question about the silencer. It's not like TVs or the movies. It was like pew, pew, pew. Doesn't it just move the sound around?
So it's not a silencer. I know that originally, yes, purists are going to say, well, Maxim, who invented doing air quotes, the silencer, patented as a silencer. The industry is moving away from using that term because words matter, and that gives the improper, like I said, we've all had training, and it comes from TV, and it's wrong. All it is doing is suppressing the sound. It's a muffler. Like a car has a muffler. You can still hear the car, but it's suppressing that sound to a volume that is safe for human ears. It's still loud. You can still hear it, unless it's like a 22 with subsonic ammunition, and even then, you're still hearing the firearm action moving back and forth.
I would love to hear that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's they're fun to shoot again if you get the opportunity. Of course, you have to have either go out of state or know someone who has a tremendous amount of federal licensing, because they are, even though they're illegal in Illinois for 99% of gun owners, if you go get a federal manufacturing license and then what they call a special occupants tax, referred to as an SOT, you then can have full auto and suppressors, but you're talking about an investment that's in the tens of thousands of dollars. So it's not like these are people who are running businesses, who are selling firearms to law enforcement and things like that have these types of federal licenses.
I talked about this on another one of my podcasts, and my buddies and me are like go hard or go home people. So I would be into that. I would get into that. Let me ask you. I keep saying one more question. I always
you
say
ask
that.
me as many as you want.
Just questions. Chipping. What? Like I know Springfields, for instance, they have where when you shoot the gun, it leaves like the fingerprint on the casing, so that's why a lot of times when officers are doing investigations, they don't want you to mess with the casing or step on the casing or anything, and that can like give you an idea of where the gun is at. What about chip-wise? How do you feel about that as far as guns go?
Like fingerprint chips and biometrics in firearms?
Yes.
I think keep it simple, stupid. I think that I've had biometrics in computers before, and I absolutely hate it. Murphy's Law, what can go wrong will go wrong. I've had to swipe my finger on my laptop like 3-4 times and then sometimes switch hands because it wouldn't read the first time. Mm-hmm. There's a saying in self-defense, when seconds count, the police will be there in minutes. And, if someone is coming at you and you need to point that firearm and press that trigger to save your life, you just died.
Okay.
I understand that it would be a benefit, like ammunition serialization, which is a technology that doesn't exist, that they're trying to push upon ammunition because it'll help law enforcement. But most of these laws that are pushed for the sole purpose of making it harder for us to exercise our rights, making it more costly for us to exercise our rights, which then keeps more of us dependent upon the government for our, self-protection. And I like to say you cannot rely on the government for everything. I think they've proven they mess up everything they touch.
All right, so keep it simple, stupid. That's what you were talking about with guns. My question is automatic versus revolver. Like, I know revolvers just really basic, and you said you like basic stuff. Do you like revolvers?
I'm not opposed to revolvers. I think firearms are tools, and I would not pound a nail with a screwdriver. I think that revolvers have a place.
Okay.
But I am a semi-automatic pistol kind of guy. Yes, revolvers are probably the most simple that there is. If you just absolutely cannot figure out how to work through a malfunction manipulation with a semi-automatic pistol, or no matter what we do, you can't rack the slide. Even, there's people that have issues with arthritis, right? And sometimes they just can't operate that semi-automatic pistol, and so we want to maybe then put them into a revolver. But I'm not opposed to revolvers. It's not my first choice. It is very simple. It's a tool, and it has its place in the toolbox.
Right. I like that. I'm not going to hammer a nail with a screwdriver.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. So I'm out of all the questions ever. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to hit you with some fun stuff about guns. Anything that I didn't ask you that you want to bring up gun-wise?
Yes, there's one thing I want to bring up. Most of us as gun owners have chosen to get into gun ownership as a means of being able to defend our families. I know obviously there's some people that like it for their recreation, aren't too concerned with the safety aspect, but the vast majority of gun owners I've surveyed buy guns as a means of defending themselves and their family. On the flip side, many of these same gun owners will then allow and rely on someone else, some other organization, some other entity to defend their right to self-defense, and that doesn't compute in my brain. You need to actively get out there and defend your rights. Our rights are under attack every single day. In this current legislative session, there were over 200 or 300 gun bills introduced in the state of Illinois. I bet you didn't know that. You have to get active. You have to get involved. You have to defend your right. No one's going to push that wheelbarrow. It's your responsibility to push that. It's your responsibility to defend your right. Otherwise, our rights are going to get taken away. They're being nibbled away a little at a time every single year. We're moving backwards an inch, an inch, an inch, and when we look back, we've lost miles. Get active, get involved, defend your rights, support organizations that defend your right, but not just that. You have to put in the effort yourself. Every single gun owner needs to be defending their rights. There's 2.5 million registered gun owners in the state of Illinois. That is 2.5 million voices. If we all stand up and be heard, there is no gun law that we couldn't overturn.
That's awesome. I appreciate you saying that. I forgot to talk to you about my buddy who builds guns, and hopefully he's listening. He's like the AR king. He builds some of the most magnificent guns I've ever seen.
It's like Legos for adults. We can talk another time about that. I'm happy to come back whenever you want me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So with that being said, get some plugs in, talk about your class if you're offering it. Of course, you got to talk about your podcast. Anything else?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, the name of my company is Alpha Koncepts, and the podcast is the Alpha Koncepts Podcast. You can go to alphakoncepts.com. It's spelled with a K. I'm on all social media under the name Alpha Koncepts. I'm a very easy guy to get a hold of. I do basic pistol training, concealed carry training. I do defensive pistol training as well. Everyone should always go out and get more training. Give my podcast a listen. We've got a lot of good episodes. Every Monday morning we put out a new episode. I just interviewed a manufacturer rep from a reloading company that's talking about his machines that put out 3,500 rounds per hour. I mean, that's just insane. I've got other great episodes talking about first-time shooters. Just recorded an episode with some wheelchair-bound shooters and some of the challenges they've had to face. So, I'm really trying to hit a broad spectrum of the gun culture. And, like I said, give that Alpha Koncepts podcast a listen.
Please do, on the Fire and Iron Media platform. Make sure you give us all a listen. We have some other podcasts that are coming out and are going to be coming to you fairly soon. But the Alpha Koncepts podcast is good. Like I said, I listen to every episode.
Thank you.
They were really good. As far as I go, for me, Severen Henderson, Department 3C, everywhere, all social medias, or if you want to follow me individually and see some of the stuff I do, I am Sevy. With that being said, Thomas, thank you very much for coming in.
My pleasure.
All right, we'll talk to you next time. Bye.
This has been a Fire and Iron Media production. You have something to say, people want to listen. How was that, Daddy?